everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Gary Mitchell, along with the lovely lady to my left, Sarah Rose, who is our stage manager of the Dragon
Hello.
Con Theater and Performing Arts Lovers unofficial track. We are bringing you more live content as we get ready for Dragon Con, which is in only a few months. 200 days until we get there. So we are looking forward to seeing everybody there. But to hold us over until we get there, we shall continue to bring these to you fortnightly. Not the video game, I mean the British term. And this is why Sarah warned everybody that I improv. So our topic today is Places Please Stage Managers in the Limelight. If you are watching us live, thank you. Welcome. Please leave a comment or question, and we will address them as they come up. If you're watching us in the future on the YouTube, please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Hit the bell so you get the notifications. Because the more engagements we get, the more proof we have that we should be an official track some point in the future. So I will let everybody introduce themselves, starting with Sarah.
Hey guys, I think you all know me by now. I'm Sarah Rose, stage manager of our wonderful group here. I apologize about my voice in advance. I have a little bit of laryngitis. I will be popping in every once in a while. You won't hear a whole lot of my lovely tones. But yeah, no, that is who I am.
We're going this way.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Liv,
Hi. Cool, awesome. Hi, I'm Liv. I am from Columbia, South Carolina. I have been a stage manager for about 2 years now, and I attended my first Dragon Con last year. So I'm hoping to come again this year, and I'm excited for this panel. Yay.
All right. And then next, Miss Stringfellow.
Hi, my name's Heather, and I live in Arkansas. My degree is actually in theater, where I did a lot of focus on stage management and acting. So now I am working here with community theaters that want to establish full-time stage management positions within their theater. And love Dragon Con. I've been going, my first year was the Dragon Con 25th anniversary, and I've been going ever since then.
Nice. And then last but certainly not least, Mr. Pillsbury.
Hey, I'm Charles Pillsbury. I am a puppeteer and a theater dad, and do a whole lot of everything, and am married to a theater educator, so I do a whole lot of everything extra, in addition to the stuff I actually want to do. So, and I'm local here to Atlanta and been going to Dragon Con for 15 years or so, something like that.
Nice. And I love your Dragon Con carpet banner strip behind you. Is definitely a member of the Marriott carpet cult myself for a long time. And I fell into the cult of John about 2 years ago, so God help me. And so if you would like to join our little cult, we will at Dragon Con be having badge ribbons. I will not say what they are yet because I think we're still finalizing them, but they will happen. And soon.
Along
Please
with
keep
many other things happening
Yes.
at Con.
Yes, so please, if you haven't already, which I hope you have since you're watching this, join our Facebook group to keep up to date with all of our news and announcements. Next panels we'll be doing, banners, etc., etc., etc. So for today, though, as the title should have given away, and our lovely guests have mentioned, we're going to be talking about the thankless job of the stage manager in theater. We have talked about performers and various types of performers. We talked a little bit about tech. We've talked about a lot of the things that you need to do in theater to keep it up, keep it running, but you really need a stage manager. I have heard the position described as being mom, cook, and bottle washer. I have heard it described as dictator. I have heard it described as the first sergeant if you're in the military. So I've heard kind and unkind descriptions of the role. So the main one I've heard is they are the director's right hand. So We'll start with Charles and then work our way back. And your area of expertise and your opinion, what would you say the primary differences are between the director, the stage manager, and what is the core thing needed between them for that relationship to work?
I think to me, the director is much more about a artistic vision for the show, and the stage manager is much more about making sure it happens, right? And I think that while those certainly can be the same person, especially in small theaters, there is a lot of difference in skill sets there. I was having a conversation with a friend recently about how, I work in IT, and like the skills that make you good at IT do not usually make you a good manager, and the skills that make you a good manager. And I think that tends to be a thing where, the best stage managers have some of those skills that do not necessarily mesh or are not necessarily natural to the directing mode or the performing mode or even the tech mode. It's just, that ability to organize and herd all of the cats in a way that is both supportive and also can get the job done.
Heather?
I would definitely say a lot of stage management is taking on all the work that the director, so that the director can focus on directing, because that's their job. They need to be able to work with the actors. They need to, be able to do what's going to be seen definitely by the audience. And so you kind of take on everything else so that they can focus on that. And so this can be big things, prompting lines, calling cues, things like that. It can even be small things. I've had to help babysit a cast member's kid so that the cast member could get up on stage, and that's, just so that they could work with the director that day. And honestly, at the end of the day, if you're doing your job correctly, nobody's going to notice that you did anything, which is kind of irritating sometimes. But, because you put a lot of work into the role because you're having to juggle so many things at one time. But yeah, if you're doing it right, nobody's going to notice that you did anything at all, and things should hopefully run smoothly because of you.
Okay. And Liv?
Awesome. So I obviously agree with like everything they've said, like all of that. It's what a stage manager is for. In my experience, to add on to that, it's because I work primarily in children's theater. So I work from ages like first grade all the way up through 12th, but primarily the elementary, middle school level. So as a stage manager, it's kind of just being that backbone for the director, because especially it depends on the director you work with, but the director I'm working with currently will give the blocking to the children but not have his written down. He'll kind of just do what comes to his mind. So it's my job to write all that down so that if an actor has a question later, you're able to give it to them and give them like their blocking and stuff like that. So I think just kind of being that like that backside of the brain for the director. It's like if they forget what their blocking is, it's like, oh yes, don't worry, they've got my back. Like kind of just being there for them. And also just like, no one really mentions like how much of like in my experience, I put together the prop list, the scene breakdown, so the director can like go over the scene breakdown and schedule the rehearsals with me. So like it's so much, and it's just like it's definitely a like working together relationship, because you can't do it with one without the other.
Okay. And this lovely person has pointed out the title of the Atlanta Radio Theaters Company. Stage managers are called the floor manager, a term that comes from the radio drama from the early 1930s. And they often cue the actors, the Foley artists, sometimes even the musicians, where they have a major difference with the traditional stage manager. The floor manager can be seen by the audience. So that actually does kind of remind me of a point I wanted to bring up, that this is a role that is fairly, I would say, unique to theater. This is not something, you're not going to go on a movie set and find a stage manager. That you're going to have, your different PAs and assistants to the assistants, that sort of thing. But this is a fairly exclusively theater position. So it's not one that a lot of people are going to think about, or if they're interested in pursuing theater, it might not be one that comes to mind. So starting with you, Liv, and going back, how did you find out that stage manager was even a position, and what interested you about it?
So it's funny because the theater that I've been working with, so I'll go and start by saying I'm very young still. I'm 20 years old. So
Oh, God.
yeah, but I've been doing stage management since I was 18. So I've been doing it for quite a bit. I got out of like being an actor for this like children's theater, and I noticed that like I was befriending the stage management a lot, and I would often get, so when we finish a production, you get paper plate awards, and I would always get stage mom, and I was like, oh, that's so sweet. It's like helping backstage, and then like I would get to know the stage manager and stuff like that, and I was like, this is really interesting. And so I came back from a year of college, and I had talked to someone who stage managed a lot of my productions through like 2020-ish. And she was telling me about the role, and I got an opportunity to assistant stage manage Don't Let the Pigeon Drive the Bus, the musical. So super good musical. I totally recommend. But I like, that's where I got to learn, like, we write down the blocking, we do like all this. And that's when I realized, oh crap, there's a lot more that goes into this than just writing down the blocking. That's when I learned, like, you help with the rehearsal schedules, you get the props, you check the conflicts, you have to call people if they're late, like stuff like that. So like, it was I'll name drop her because she's awesome. My friend Sadie Carr is also still a stage manager at the theater I work at, but she is the reason I discovered stage management and still like doing it.
Okay. Yeah, and for everybody, plug away if there's anything you want to promote or anybody you want to give some props to, please do so. So Heather, how about you?
Well, I was kind of from the same background in that I grew up doing theater, started when I was around kindergarten age, and just kind of kept with it and decided that's what I was going to do in college. And then one of the entry level classes that you take in the theater department where I went to school was Intro to Stage Management. And we spent an entire semester just looking at different ways to do scene breakdowns for a director. We had to make sample prompt books. We had to make call sheets. We had, just all of the documentation that stage managers have to keep up with. And we had to make samples of all of that. And my teacher was like, you're actually really good at this. And I was like, oh, okay, you think so? Because I was there just mostly as an actor, but they were like, yeah, you kind of have a talent for this. And of course, later on in the program, you have to also direct a show, and then you also have to stage manage a show. And during my junior and senior year, everybody kept asking me to stage manage for them. If I wasn't in a show, then I was stage managing for somebody. And it just kind of, it got to be a thing. It was just something that I found that I could do easily. I'm just kind of naturally organized like that. My husband would say naturally bossy, which helps. So so that's just kind of how I got into it, was just from, there's a reason they make you take all those classes at the beginning, and that's so you can just kind of find where your talents lie. And that's what happened for me.
Cool. All right. And yourself, Charles?
Yeah, for me, it was, I think I mentioned that my wife is a theater educator, and I have kids ranging from 6 to 26. And my 20-year-old, which, thanks, Liv, when he was, I think about 13 or 14, and everybody else, his younger sister, his older brother, were all very involved with theater. He was not wanting to be on stage, but he was very, loved the process and really dove into being the stage manager for the middle school productions as soon as he hit high school. And so I went to classes with him to kind of help give him that launch through. And he's in college now for creative writing and computer science, but so far at 2.5 years in, I think every semester he's ended up helping out with stage managing, have friends who are in the theater department who are doing one act, who he gets requested to be a stage manager for, or a random actor. And that mode of just, having some organization there, because, I saw a lot of that where, the directors have grand and wonderful visions, and I hit it when I was the one helping them design the sets. But then I also realized, saw how much that translated into when it came time for the show is on, needing somebody who can focus on this is next, this is next, this is next, as opposed to just the vision of it. And so that working with my 20-year-old Ender was a lot of my stage managing time.
Yes, it is very much a role of the director wants the moon. We have 2 lamps and a string. What are we going to do?
I wouldn't know anything about that, Gary.
Not at all.
Not at all.
All right. So kind of bouncing off from that then. So because there is a lot of work to be done and the responsibility sometimes is too much for one person. And I'm going to start with you this time, Heather, and I'm going to just kind of bounce around the circle here. What you think is the essence of a solid and effective stage manager, and is a team always required, or is it a position that one person could pretty much handle on their own?
A lot of times it depends on the size of the theater or the size of the company. Obviously, for a lot of the theaters that I work with here, they're smaller community theaters, that can be, the theater is like literally just one room. And, so not a whole lot necessary for as far as, advanced lighting systems or sound systems or anything like that. There's a whole lot of, let's just see what somebody donated and we'll use that. It really kind of depends. I would think for, larger cities that have larger theaters, obviously larger theater programs. Of course, when I was in college, you may have 2 or 3 stage managers working on a show, depending on what show you're doing. I talked to a stage manager from another school they were doing Victor Victoria. They had 4 stage managers. Because a lot of them had to be out in the audience cueing things as they were happening on stage, because you have to have all those extra eyes. So yeah, a lot of it's just I know it's kind of a cop-out answer to give it depends, but it really does. But I would think if you are in a position to work as a solo stage manager, then you're definitely going to have, and this is what's worked for me, you're definitely going to have some sort of system of organization. If you are not a naturally organized person, figure out a system that will work. Because I've talked to stage managers before that are not organized, but it's an organized mess that they understand. It's like, it may look like a mess to someone else, but they know exactly where everything is and how everything's supposed to work. So as long as you have something that you can hang that on, that what's going on, then you should be good to go.
You have to look at the big picture, see how it all ties together.
Exactly.
Yeah. And as somebody who essentially stage manages this group, I can tell you that that's definitely am I a naturally organized person? No, says the person who has all this crap piled on her desk right now. But you've got to find you do have to find ways to make it work. For me, it's my calendar that I can write things down on. It's my Excel spreadsheet. Gary knows I love my Excel spreadsheets.
I do love a good spreadsheet.
Yeah, I'm a spreadsheet nerd. It just comes down to like making sure that you have a way to formulate and organize your plan, and then you have a way to formulate and organize your back plan. When something inevitably goes wrong, okay, well, this is what we're going to jump to next. And that's really important. So anyway, I jumped in. Sorry.
Also the ability to not panic easily is that's kind of a big one. Which it was funny because my friends in college used to do impressions of me getting bad news, because they're like, half of the cast is dead, and you're probably going to have to go on stage for them. Okay, we can make that work.
Yes, remain calm.
It's like, yes, okay.
Despite everyone else. All right, how about you, Liv?
Yeah, so I once again, not to keep saying I agree with everything they said, but I agree with everything they said. But I definitely think like organization is a big one. Like honestly, I feel like having a knowledge of spreadsheets though is definitely very important going in because you will be using a lot of spreadsheets. Patience, especially in children's theater, is a big one because you're constantly having to deal with children who don't know how to be quiet backstage or stuff like that. So like being patient with them, but still also having that like sternness because like, you know, since I'm younger, I'm not taken as seriously in a children's theater, but like having that like stern vibe, like knowing where I stand with my role. It's like, I am your stage manager. You're going to listen to me when I tell you to not talk backstage. So yeah. And also I fully agree with like, sometimes you will need a team. The production we just did this summer, it was The Little Mermaid, and I was assistant stage manager for that. And the person I mentioned earlier was the stage manager. We had to have two other like basically assistant stage managers because there were probably around 300 kids in two separate casts for that production. It was massive and large, and there were huge set pieces to move around. So just having extra hands, stuff to pull, like we had like scenery hung up there, and we had to pull them down on ropes, stuff like that. So having a team, even if it's not like a stage management team, just in general, always having a team is very, very important to me because having people who like understand what you're going through and are able to work with you is such an important part of stage management. They also just essentially help keep you calm because like sometimes it gets a little stressful corralling around 150, 200 kids. So sometimes you gotta have someone be like, you could be like, oh my gosh, this is stressful. And they're like, yeah, I totally get it. And they do get it. So yeah, I love having my team. I love the people who do stage management with me.
All right, and how about you, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is universally, you know, the combination of organization and being able to keep calm and maybe having a natural version of that mom, dad, teacher voice to be able to get the people quiet backstage, especially with the kids theater, as Liv said, because like I know, you know, the stage manager of that was one of my son's best friends who is currently stage managing at the theater where my wife does some directing at. Is, you know, they are very much they are the quiet, you don't see them person 95% of the time. But when they are in that mode, you know that Charlie is going to make sure that kids are quiet, they are in order, and they love them. But it is very much having that natural mode, and then just the ability to just stay calm, keep moving forward with it is, I think that's the biggest part. And yes, I think, to Heather's point, it is very much the size of the production and the size of the cast and what you're looking at as far as whether or not anybody can do it on their own.
Yeah, I'm talking about that and staying calm and giving the directions. I will never forget the one lady who stage managed a production I was in, who she had a hoodie, and when she had the hoodie on, she was the stage manager. When she didn't have the hoodie on, she was just kind of hanging out. And she was like, look, if I'm in the hoodie, you got to listen to me. You have to do the, and whenever something really bad, tense would happen, or she needed a minute, she would actually pull the string to make it. And she's like, oh, it's like, okay, leave her alone, give her a minute to process. And then she would pop it back open and it was like, and you could see the change between when April was outside of the, and then when she put the hood in, it's like, oh, the mantle's on. All right. So you're gonna say,
And
Sarah?
it's the big, that's actually a big part also I find of being a stage manager for my productions that I've done, is like being able to have people like have that respect of you enough, like command that respect in a nice way, where they know, okay, this is when I'm me, your friend, and this is when I'm me, the person who's trying to make this production function. And I think that's a big part of stage managing in general, is knowing how to communicate that without making somebody mad.
Yeah, because actors don't have egos. They wouldn't take something the wrong way and turn into your personal enemy for the rest of your life. That would never
Right.
happen.
Diplomacy is definitely a big thing.
Mhm.
Being able to, because since you are acting as the director's right hand, then, you know, what you say should be as good as what the director is telling them as well. So, you know, director tells me to tell somebody something, I got to find the best way to break it to them sometimes.
I especially want to add on something that Gary said just a couple seconds ago, when you said something about there's the difference between friends and like when you also have to put on the stage management hat, especially being like at my age, there were people I'm stage managing who I was in productions with. So it's like having to find that like balance between like, yeah, I'm still your friend because we did these productions together, but also you're still going to need to listen to me because when your director is telling me to tell you something, don't like take me less seriously because you know me more than you know the director. But yeah, I think having that like that line is so important, especially at like my age and the children's theater I work in.
And that actually does tie in kind of nicely to our next point. Is we're talking now about some of those things you can run into as difficulties as working as the stage manager. So for somebody who's interested in becoming a stage manager, from you, what would you say are the common speed bumps or limitations or problems that someone should expect to run into? And how would you advise people to work around these issues, or ways someone can kind of mitigate what they're going to run into? And we'll start with Charles.
I mean, I think some of the biggest things are going to be just you're going to have actors' egos that you're going to be dealing with. You're going to have directors' egos that you're going to be dealing with, and you know, being able to internalize, recognize, pivot, and process that in a way that allows you to still enjoy what you're doing. And a lot of that ends up being, I think, you know, being able to recognize the humanity and recognize where people are coming from is going to be one of the big things that will help you still find the job fulfilling and not just soul crushing, because you're going to have all of those things. And yeah, to Liv's point, you know, especially when you've got kids who are doing it, you know, there are so many factors for them as actors, and some of them are going to treat it like, hey, I'm here to have fun and goof off, and some of them are going to be treating it like, this is my job, this is the thing I want to do, this is really important to me. And being able to match those energies for them so that you're able to keep everybody on even keel, I think that's one of the biggest speed bumps, and kind of one of the biggest things to be aware of and work towards overcoming.
I know.
I don't know. I find it hard to believe that directors have ego. I'm sorry, continue.
Well, I know that kind of adding on to that, sometimes it's the directors that can be a speed bump, because you'll have directors that will constantly change their idea of what they're doing with something. And as part of your job, you're trying to keep track of everything in the prompt book that the director's saying. It's like, you know, here's where they want that cue, and here's, you know, this is the blocking that they want for it. And you come in maybe 10 minutes later and they have changed the whole thing. And then you come in for the next rehearsal and they've changed it again. And just being able to roll with it is definitely a plus.
Oh yeah, so I've decided that instead of doing this Shakespeare in the authentic time, we're making it a space production. What? And then actually no, we're actually going to make it a modern corporate business. What? Would you pick a vision?
And so you're like, okay, so you got to go and break the news to the tech director, the costume designer.
How about you, Liv? What are some of the common things you've run into and how to avoid them?
So I've kind of like, I've said it already, and I'm gonna keep touching on it because like I think it's very common in like a new stage manager's run, like at like someone who's starting out, being taken less seriously, because like I'm talking to parents a lot, because I'm like having to call up parents and be like, hey, where's your kid? They're not at rehearsal. Because you can't really, when at that age, you can't blame the child. The child has to get a ride from a parent. So you have to call up the parent and you're like, hey, are you bringing your kid to rehearsal? And they're like, I didn't know he had rehearsal. And then they start like getting an attitude with you because you're young and they think that they're able to take it out on you. So it's like finding that like that, it's a weird way to word it. It's like not taking anything like too personally, because like the parents aren't like they're not taking out on me because they know who I am. They're taking out on me because I'm the person who asked their child to come into rehearsal. So yeah, just
you're the one they can blame.
Yeah, exactly. Like and then also like at some point, like the older teen actors will find a reason to blame you. Like, heaven forbid, I took a day to get out of, like, I took a day later to get out the music folders, and people are like, "Where is the music? Where's the music?" It's like, sorry, I was sick with the flu and couldn't respond. It's also was the middle of break. It was the middle of our Christmas break, and they were like, "Where's this? Where's this? Are we gonna do this? When's this?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, just 5 minutes, please." Like, it's definitely finding that like they're doing it because they don't like know me as well, but they're just trying to figure it out, just like we're all trying to figure out the show as it's moving along. Like, everyone's stressed, especially when it gets to Tech Week. I don't even want to get started about Tech Week, but yeah, I think especially like just wrapping that up, my age is a big one, like being taken less seriously, and also just like children's theater is just a big hurdle in and of itself rather than just regular theater. Children's theater is a whole other hurdle, but yeah, I still love it regardless.
And a lot of times it's reminding yourself that it's not you they're mad at, it's the situation that's making them mad, but you happen to be the face of that situation.
Exactly.
So try not to take it personally because of that.
Yeah, and especially like I mentioned before in describing the role, a lot of people will throw attitude at you because they see you as the heavy, because you're the one trying to make everybody, move. You're trying to make all the moving parts move correctly, and hurting those cats, especially like Liv was saying, in a children's theater. That's like hurting cats is the easy part. Also, release the no, never mind. I won't say. But
the easy part. How about hurting Gary's?
Yes. Yeah, I have to say I was highly amused at Sarah's warning everybody that I do this, but
no, it was said in
hilarious.
love.
Oh, it was. Like I said, I found it hilarious because it's accurate. I will totally cop to it.
He will go off script to the people who literally the script is the word. There's a reason, though, that we call him the stage director and we call me the stage manager.
Yes.
Just saying. The roles fit us perfectly.
Indeed. That's why we're so simpatico. But getting back on script, as it were. And someone here posting, please remember also to give StreamYard permission to see your name so we can see it. A question for the panel then. Wondering how a stage manager works in puppet theater. I believe you can speak to that, Charles.
Yeah, it is very similar from my experience. Your puppeteers are your actors, your cues are your cues. Everything that's kind of happening is going to be managed very similarly. I think one of the some of the challenges that you hit a little differently with puppetry end up being, one is your puppeteers are usually, by virtue of how the art form is usually performed live, they have to be a lot more selfless about, they're not necessarily trying to upstage each other. There's not a lot of ego usually with that. It is usually about just trying to make sure you can get in the spot so that I can get my, I'm up there, I'm seeing everything's where it needs to be. So there's a lot of kind of camaraderie there in a way that does not end up being, it's not like, hey, I'm the star of the show. And, you don't usually end up with that kind of, somewhat cliquish, which, I see a lot like in a kids theater, right? You have, here's the people who have all the, they're sitting there counting lines, right? You don't have that sort of thing, but at least from the stuff that I've done at the center, which I've done like one XPT and a couple of Puppet Slam pieces there, the stage manager is doing a lot of the same stuff as they're doing anywhere else. However, if you're doing a show like a Puppet Slam, which is a variety-based thing, there's one coming up in February, February 24th. I will not say the name of the show because I will not get it right verbally, and then it will be, because it is the Pucking Puppet Show. I say it very slow. Yeah.
Please don't dig us on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to
and-
put the ding,
yeah. That's why I gotta say it slow. Yeah. But like in that, because it's a variety show and it is done very open mic, our stage manager does a great job of, there are some Google Forms ahead of time. You're getting all of the names, you're getting all the cues, and then you've got to do a lot of coordinating of just, the various types of puppetry that are going to be coming in and off stage. But even for a show like XPT, which is also variety, but a little longer form, the stage manager is really making sure all of the acts are in their cues and the places, making sure we've got somebody to, change out all the mic packs, all that sort of thing. So it's fairly similar from a puppetry perspective, at least in my limited experience with the stage manager on that.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Just
and I'm
having
pretty sure
been
go
in
ahead.
puppeteering positions before, I that's very accurate. I mean, because blocking can be very intricate when you are working with a lot of people that cannot be seen but have to move around each other and make a cohesive scene. And so, yeah, stage manager definitely keeps track of that, as well as with a lot of puppet shows. There's a lot of sound cues, there's a lot of lighting cues, and of course they've got to track all that as well. So it's basically the same. I mean, there are some differences, but very, very similar.
Indeed. And I believe the next Puckin' Puppet show is, we are saying it correctly there, is the Valentine's Day one. Please look out to and reach out to the DragonCon puppetry track on Facebook to see the dates on that. And once again, hi, Bo. We love you. And so
Charles definitely loves you.
yes.
Yeah.
And we talked earlier a little bit about the title of the ARTC, which is, of course, the Atlanta Radio Theater Company, which means Bill Rich was probably the one making that lovely comment. So if in the comments, Bill, if that is you watching, please throw down some information about a little more about what your radio theater company stage manager is like, and we'll read that comment out when we get it. But moving on, we've talked
Or
a
if
little
it's
bit.
not Bill, I
If
can't
it's
see
not
the
Bill.
name right now.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's not. It just says Facebook user.
It's this Facebook user.
Yes, so obviously they are a user of the Facebook. So we talked a little bit about the love of the spreadsheet and as a very handy, vital tool for use by a stage manager. We'll start with Liv this time. What are some other what you would consider vital tools that a stage manager needs to have to be effective in the role?
Well, I know we were just saying besides the spreadsheets, but I do want to comment on I have a spreadsheet called I'm assuming that most people do, the master book. So it has it has the audition form information when people audition. It has what the people got cast as and if they accepted or declined. It's got phone numbers, it's got emails, it's got conflicts, it's got all the stuff you need. And it is so, so important. Obviously there's other ways to splice those up and they're in different forms, but I like having them all in one place because it feels easier to keep organized.
Mm-hmm.
But besides that, one thing I've learned is actually pretty important to carry around as a stage manager is a lot of extra pencils because your actors a lot of the time don't remember pencils. So being able to be here's a pencil, here's a pencil.
That is so true.
And then, and having to buy more because most of the time they won't give them back because they won't remember. So it's just, there's my serious answer, which is the master book, and then getting pencils for your kids or even your adult actors. At some point, I do acting as well on top of stage management, and I will admit I've forgotten a pencil once or twice, and as a stage manager, I bonk myself upside the head when I do. But but yeah, I think that both are very, very important to being a stage manager.
Hi, Bill.
We'll show you.
Hi, Bill.
We'll show you later, Bill.
It seemed like very much a you sort of comment, Bill. We love having you along, and we will get you back on one of these again soon. So yes, again, we love you, Bill. Doing this a lot tonight. So how about you, Charles? What's one of your other vital tools, or is it are we the cult? Have we started a new Dragon Con cult, the cult of the spreadsheet?
Yeah. That
What
may
is
be.
that badge ribbon
Absolutely.
going to look like?
My kind of thing.
So yeah, for one of the Christmases for my 20-year-old, when I think he was 14 or 15, his Christmas gift was a stage manager kit, because that's what he was wanting for so long. I mean, it was basically just a big
Aw.
toolbox that had a bunch of pencils, a bunch of highlighters, a couple rolls of gaff tape and spike tape, and a bunch of Sharpies and Band-Aids and hand sanitizer and hand wipes. And I like all of that. Just, it's the stuff that is the equivalent at con of the people who were there with their cosplay repair kits,
Yes.
right? It's it's all of that. Just, having all of those things. Somebody's gonna need tissues. There's always a bag of cough drops in there, maybe a box of throat coat if that's your theater's thing. But that mode, that it's all those little things that everybody's gonna forget.
Yeah. One of the alternate titles we considered for this panel was Tape That Down. So that I heard that from many a stage manager too.
Yes.
All right. So how about you, Heather?
One of the things that I find myself grabbing the most often, and it's this may fall into the category of spreadsheet, but not really. But it's a form that I would put together, and just the rehearsal report. And in that, if you're not familiar with that, I write down, this is what we worked on this day, from this page to this page. This is what we blocked. These were problems that we ran into that we're probably going to need to fix later. Over the course of this, we realized we need this prop piece, we need this set piece, we need this costume piece, and that way, everybody gets. And I send it to everybody, so that everybody gets the information of this is what we need to do for the next rehearsal. The next time that we come across this scene, we need to make sure that we have these in order to make it happen. So vital piece of information.
Okay.
And good rehearsal report is so nice to have, just from anybody's, for any experience that was always that, oh, good. Yes, there's a solid rehearsal. We know exactly what happened.
For me, it's really my calendar. And the green screen won't really show it, but it's literally right here all the time, and it's one with enough space to write on and write my list on what days, because sometimes it's knowing, okay, somebody is not going to be available last minute this one, so I need to write that down, or I need to remember that so and so lost their prop. They brought it home, now they don't know where it is, so I need to remember the next day I need to bring it back. And for me, that's all written on my little handy dandy calendar, so that I can make sure that I have it, because Excel spreadsheets are great. And if anybody saw me during con, I was literally carrying around a computer, because that was my life. My prompt book was my computer that during con. But sometimes having that physical piece of paper that isn't in a book, something that I can just look down and look at it, is really important. Also different color pens, because I need that. For me, is really important. The different colors mean different things, and I don't have to worry about reading through 10 million notes.
So we've discussed the things to bring to the stage manager role that would help someone into that role. What now, speaking to the cats that were herding and the directors and everybody else, what advice would you give to people for them to make them help them help you make your job easier? What's some things you would like an actor or a director or a prop maker or set dresser or anything? What's something you would like them to know that would make your job better, aside from do what they're told? We'll start with Liv.
Oh goodness. Well, mainly just like for like telling like actors, because like, you know, from where I've worked, a lot of people are very like nice and understanding, but sometimes the actors are just the ones that are like getting under your skin. So if you could just tell them one thing, it's like, please just like don't question what we say. When I'm telling you that like, hey, don't touch another person's prop that's not yours, and then they go, but why? I don't have time to answer but why. I have to run off and go set more people's props while I make sure that the curtains close and make sure everybody's here. And like, it just like understanding that what the stage manager is talking about, they know what they're talking about. So just like listening skills is one of the biggest skills I would recommend people just like give to stage managers, because we're already panicked enough as it is. Like, obviously we're keeping a very calm composure, but you know, when there's that much going on in your head, and if things are going wrong, someone's missing, someone didn't pick up the phone, so now you're missing 3 actors. It's like, just listen to your stage manager. If they tell you to be quiet, be quiet. If they tell you to go move a prop, please just go move a prop. Stuff like that.
And how about you, Heather?
Well, number one, of course, don't touch the props. Just please.
And don't bring
Unless
them
it's
home,
your prop.
please.
And even if it's your prop, only touch it when you need it and then put it back where it goes. And but really the big thing is just remember that we're human too. We are not going to get it right 100% of the time. We would love to. We would love to get it right 100% of the time, but we are going to screw up. And, you know, we accept that you are going to screw up. Please accept that we will screw up as well, and that we will try not to make that mistake a second time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Despite contrary reports, the stage managers are people.
I'm pretty sure that the stage manager is God, and they're infallible.
Yeah.
Otherworldly, ethereal, you know.
All knowing, all seeing.
I would go more
Yes,
towards
we saw
Metatron.
you. Put it back.
Yeah, they are the voice of God. The director, I mean, just ask the director, they're God.
No, I don't know if
Joan
anybody's
of
seen
Arc. We're the messenger.
Schmigadoon season 3, but they did a really good job with their. It takes place in a Broadway play, if nobody's seen it, and there is a stage manager character in Schmigadoon season 3, and like she she does everything like in behind the scenes that you would never know of, including appeasing the theater ghost. So like. And that all really does fall under stage manager.
And how about you, Charles? Especially with how does the puppetry factor into it?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that I would want anybody, be that the director or the actor or the fellow puppeteers, is that mindset that we are all trying to put together one thing. We are all part of this as a team, and we each have a part to play in that, right? And you know, the director may have the vision, but that does not necessarily mean that their actors are not bringing something to it. The actors have their parts, but that does not mean that your sound guy does not have their piece. And just being aware and taking the time to be mindful of how everybody else is trying to do their job, and all of those jobs come together to create this experience and this piece of art. And that mindfulness of where everybody else is coming from, and to be able to step back and say, look, I know this isn't going exactly how I want. This isn't necessarily exactly what I want it to be in this instance, but look at that bigger picture of what everybody else is trying to do and trying to mesh those pieces together.
Good. And the next question I kind of want to ask is related sort of to this. And I know part of the answer is going to be it depends, so we'll start there. But for the stage manager, I have seen times where you just have the one person, they're the stage manager, they're doing all. And then I've seen where they have a team, they have 1, 2, maybe 3 assistants. In each of you's opinion, what works better, at least for you or the theater? And if you're going to build a team, what do you look for in someone helping you? And should it be an actor or should it be another behind the scenes person? Because I've seen both, and to good and bad results from both times. So I'll start with Heather.
I think the control freak in me would love to just do everything myself. But I would definitely say that if I were going to have someone working with me, I would probably want an actor working with me, just because that way I could focus mostly on the tech end and directing end of things, and then they could possibly work on what would affect the cast. So that's pretty much how I would set that up. I would definitely look for someone who would let me do my thing, obviously. Try, not try to step on any toes or get in the way or anything, but yeah, just as long as I get along with them, as long as we know who works on what, then I mean that would be an ideal teaming, I would say.
Right. Liv?
Yeah, so you were very right. It definitely depends. But I think I do like having a team for specific productions, and like it obviously, like, so it definitely, like, it's very specific in children's theater because we have acting for like children done by professionals, and then acting like opportunities for children. So when it's like our smaller shows that our adults are doing, you don't really need a team. It's like 5 actors and stuff like that. The stage manager can have it covered. But in productions with children, I do like having assistants because having, like, for shows like I just recently finished up Finding Nemo Junior. I was stage managing that one. And I, thank goodness, got assistants who were high schoolers at the venue we were using. And without them, I would have not been able to do the show, because the other big thing is the actors were 1st through 5th graders. So I can't really trust them to like move giant set pieces out onto the stage. So having these assistants who they would listen to me, like, they were very respectful to me. It was very nice, especially since we were so close in age. Like, seeing them be very respectful was awesome. But like, they like knew their stuff. They asked for an extra script so they could write their stuff in. And like, it definitely, I liked having a teammate that wasn't an actor, especially since, like I said, I can't often have the help of the actors. If I do get the help of an actor, I definitely want to make sure that's not someone who's like also drowning in stuff to do on stage. Because if they have stuff to do on stage and then they come off stage and all of a sudden they need to go do 1,000 other things, but then they got to miss a quick entrance and like stuff like that. So I like having a lot of techies because I feel like they just understand it more. But also, if you have an actor, most often, like, they know what they're doing as well. They know the show as well. So yeah, it definitely, you were right. It very much depends.
All right, and you, Charles?
Yeah, I mean, yes, obviously it depends. I think to me it's mostly about somebody who's willing to take it seriously and make sure that they are, that they are focused on that thing, getting that thing done, right? I mean, one of the things that happened in a recent production that somebody was in and my family is, they had, in between, during intermission, they had one kid who was stressed out and threw up, and one kid who passed out from the heat, and then one kid who was having a panic attack. And so you had, everybody. You had a director who was dealing with the throwing up kid, and you had the stage manager who's dealing with the passed out kid, and then you had a couple of really mindful, taking it seriously actors who were like, okay, we're going to get this panic attack under control. I know how we're going to do this. We're going to take for a minute. And just that, having somebody who is willing to step up and be aware of what's going on, but take it seriously enough so that it wasn't like, oh no, there's something going on. I'm going to go, I've got an extra 10 minutes on intermission because I know this isn't going to go back on, that somebody who will take it seriously and treat it with, you can be serious and treat it with professionalism without taking away the fun of it, but really just that recognizing what's going on and being serious with it.
All right, so I do want to be mindful. I know that I believe, Liv, you have a hard out in a few minutes. So we're going to jump to our final question. And Before you answer, if you would, please feel free to tell everybody again who you are, where you can be found, any productions that you would like to promote or things you would like to do. There is certainly questions we didn't get to, so everybody watching, please look for the follow-up panel to this panel in the future. We say that pretty much every time we do one of these. So again, I will start with you, with Liv, out of consideration for your time. You should appreciate as a stage manager. So what is the biggest piece of advice you would give to someone who's interested in becoming a stage manager?
It's definitely like, because I had this exact experience. It's don't give up if your first production feels like it went poorly. If your first experience as a stage manager, you felt like everything went wrong, things were so stressful, definitely don't give up after that, because the experiences are so different from every show, every director you work with, every set of actors you work with. Every experience is different, and you're going to have your down ones. You're going to have your ones that once it's over, you're like, thank goodness it's over. But then you're going to have your ones that you miss a lot and like that you wish you could go back to all the time. So just don't give up on your like performance. Like, don't give up on your craft just because one goes bad. Like, stick with it. It's worth it. It's fun. It's a great time. Yeah. I'll also, should I just go and reintroduce like
yes, absolutely. Please
okay,
do.
Cool. Yeah, so in case anyone forgot, I'm Liv. I am from Columbia, South Carolina. I work for Columbia Children's Theater. You can find us at columbiachildrenstheater.com. I'm currently stage managing a production of Beauty and the Beast that opens in like a week and a half. Whew. And yeah, it's very, we're moving into Tech Week. It's very stressful. And then I'm also acting in a production coming up called Mad Libs Live. It's based off the book. So yeah, you can check us out there. Thank you guys so much for having me. This was I've never done something like this before. It's really cool.
Well, cool. I look forward to seeing you on another one of these. We're at Dragon Con.
Thank you so much.
All right. And if you have to bounce, please feel free to bounce. Otherwise, just stick around until you have to.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Sarah. Y'all are awesome. Thank you so much.
All right. Bye. And so, Charles, what would you, again, would you, remind everybody and then your answer?
So I'm Charles. I am local to Atlanta puppeteer. The things I would plug are almost exclusively at the center right now. The Puckin' Fuppet show is coming up. I believe it is February 24th. That is the Valentine's Puppet Slam. XPT applications have been put in. I don't know if everybody's shows have what has been accepted. I did not submit a show this year. I did one last year, but I am helping potentially with 3 or 4 different shows, and that's coming up usually in May. And there may be some other things that come up with the education department. And as far as looking at getting into it, I think the biggest thing is find a theater, find a chance to help. And I know for the people that in my life who have done a lot more with stage management, a lot of that has come from find a production that you're interested in, but you don't necessarily feel like, oh, I have to be on stage for this, so that you have investment in the story. You are wanting to be part of that. And I do not imagine that there are any either educational or community theaters that wouldn't gladly take the help of a pair of hands and picking up what's going on. There's tons of educational materials out there, but just getting your hands on and getting your hands dirty, I think is the main thing.
Yeah, I don't know a single theater that isn't looking for at least a pair of hands.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And Heather.
Well, as far as where you can find me, I have a YouTube channel, Running Geek Girl, and it's just the intersection of geek culture and fitness. So that's what I do with my time. I'm also Running Geek Girl on Instagram, Threads, Facebook, all that fun stuff. So as far as what you need to know if you want to be a stage manager, just keep in mind that it's very hard work. And as we mentioned earlier in the panel, it's many times a thankless job. Because like I said earlier, if you're doing it right, nobody's going to even notice that you did anything. But it's very rewarding work, because you can look up at that stage and say, I made that happen. And
Mhm.
if you would like to get involved, everybody has a community theater somewhere nearby, and community theaters cannot exist without help from the community. And a lot of times these community theaters do not have someone who can act as a stage manager. This is your opportunity to help them out and try the role on for yourself. So definitely check with them. Community theater is so important. So please get involved.
Yes, support your local theater, support your local theater, support your local theater. And Sarah, do you have any final thoughts or on that as well yourself?
As far as my biggest advice is don't give up. You know, things are going to go wrong. It's something to expect. Uh, and as somebody who has a lot of like anxiety, imposter syndrome type uh issues, uh I can say that like stage managing, while it's probably the most challenging part, much more challenging than the acting part for me, it's also for me very rewarding. I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. So even if things don't go 100% the way you want them to, that does not mean that they went badly. And so you know just don't give up. That's the biggest thing I say. Go out there, do it, do your best, and be okay with your best.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as where you can find me, you can find me at the group up there, Dragon Con Theater and Performing Arts Lovers Unofficial. That's pretty much my online presence currently, from our day-to-day activities where you can find me. I am going to plug our next panel right now, which is Beyond the Screen, Fandom on Stage. It will be Thursday, January 25th at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be talking about all those wonderful fandom productions that seem to be coming out of the woodwork. Um, more, we did something similar at Dragon Con. This one's going to be focusing more on mainstream fandom, less about the the out of the box ones than that one did. Not that that one was bad. I loved it. It was a lot of fun. But this one's more about mainstream productions. Other than that, we are constantly looking for new panelists. Please, if you want to be a panelist, our form. It's pinned on the top of the group. If you can't find that, message me. I will make sure you get the Google form, because the stage manager in me is always like, always fill out the form, please. And yeah, no, definitely let us know what you want to see next. We are planning on having a halfway to Dragon Con meetup, either the end of February or the beginning of March. We haven't nailed down the date, but we'll be revealing our badge ribbon at that point. Maybe some other things. It'll
Mm-hmm.
be a fun time. So
Yes, we will definitely be talking about things to expect at Dragon Con, because we will be pretty much doing exactly what we did last year. A lot, we're sort of a
right, we
guerrilla
don't give away
production.
things.
I'm not giving away names and titles. I'm just saying to expect more of what we did, in a
Right,
similar
bigger and
way,
better
but
though
bigger and better.
than
Yeah, there might be a
we
sing
were last year.
along. There might be more panels, etc. Yeah, you must come to the halfway meeting to find out all the juicy details.
Exactly.
And trust me, they're juicy. Oh, they're juicy.
Oh.
So, with that, once again, I am Gary Mitchell. As Sarah said, you can find me here. You can find me on the Facebook there. I am also part of the Good to Be a Geek Network, where I co-host the horror podcast, A Podcast of Amontillado. And I am looking forward to seeing all of your lovely faces at con. So until next time, thank you. Like, share,
Bye.
subscribe.
Bye, everybody. Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.